Viltrox recently released a new air lens, the 15mm F1.7, and we're testing it today here for Fujifilm on the Fujifilm X-M5 in 6.2K, which I think is a perfect combination here because the lens is so small and light and also the camera. And I want to make this review a little bit less technical because I've been thinking about my content and I really just want to go out more and show you stuff instead of just talking about gear and specs that oftentimes don't really translate perfectly into the real life. So we'll entirely focus here on the shots that you can actually get with this combo. Let's get into it. So let's quickly talk about the body of this lens. It's super light at just 180 grams and the price will also be below $200 like all air lenses from Viltrox, which is great. But aside from that, the body doesn't really have anything. Like there's no aperture ring, there's nothing. There's a USB-C port though for firmware upgrades, that's nice. And it's all plastic. I think there's also no weather sealing or so, is there? No weather sealing, so it's very basic, but that's also what you can expect from such an affordable lens. Therefore, it's super lightweight, and the filter thread of this lens is 58mm, which I don't really like because I prefer 67mm. Then I can use my filters on more lenses because many of my lenses are actually 67mm, so I have filters for that, and here I always have to use step-up rings. That's why I would prefer 67mm there, but of course I would make the lens bigger and also potentially a bit heavier. And it's an APS-C lens at 15mm, so it gives you a about 22.5mm f2.5 equivalent field of view to a full frame camera. What is great, because f2.5, even for such a wide angle lens, gives you quite a bit of a blur, and that's what we all want, right? We want to have this full frame look. However, I do have to say, for vlogging especially, I do prefer the Viltrox 13mm f1.4 lens because it's just a little bit wider. I think like 22.5mm for like vlogging, holding the camera in your hand is still a little bit too close. Test in a second. And of course f1.4 is also still a bit nicer than f1.7. So if you have a bit higher budget and you want the best, then the Viltrox 13mm f1.4 is what I would recommend. However, this lens also weighs a bit more, and this is where all the other Viltrox air lenses come into play. Like this lens fits perfectly well together with the 25mm, 35mm and 56mm Viltrox air lenses. They all weight about the same, they look about the same, and they are also super cheap. So this is actually a great set of lenses if you travel a lot, but you want to get this full frame look on APS-C cameras such as the Fujifilm X-M5. And I have to say, that's also what I love about those air lenses. They are just so compact, and I'm actually thinking right now of simplifying my content creation as well, especially when it comes to filming myself, because you know, I don't necessarily always want to carry a second big camera with me to film myself. So this could actually be a great option here, probably not only with this lens but also other ones such as the other air lenses. And so keeping everything light and small with this X-M5 here is great. And it also affects the tripod, of course. You want it to be lightweight, and having a tripod here on that setup is really important because the lens is not stabilized and also the camera, the X-M5, is not stabilized. So shooting straight out of our hands should give us a bit of jittery footage. I will do a vlog test in a moment where we get a bit of shake because of that, but I wanted to show you the field of view for vlogging there, so keep watching for that. Anyway, the tripod I'm testing here right now is a Sirui 224FL. It's a bit lighter one, not the lightest travel tripod, but looks really nice, a bit more pro focused, which I definitely like. If you want to know more about this tripod and other travel tripods, then check out out this video here in the corner. There you will learn more. I compare like all the best travel tripods out there. But aside from that, I also want to try in this video if I could replace a normal travel tripod for such a small setup at least with this Insta360 3-meter selfie stick here and a tripod base together with a little ball head, because it's so small. Maybe that is all you really need to film yourself, but I want to know if it like shakes too much or something like that. So after the vlog that we are doing in a second, I will just completely film myself with this setup, and you tell me in the comments if you think it shakes too much or so. So this is how the Viltrox 15mm F1.7 looks for vlogging. It is at f1.7, so you can see you're getting a good amount of background blur, but I do think it is a little bit too close. Like, I have my arm fully extended right now, and even with a lightweight setup like that, it's not really comfortable for a longer period of time. Yeah, I actually did not come for the sunrise over the ocean here, really. I want to do a bit of birding today, because here is a little mangrove forest park that I want to explore. So I would say let's do that now. Sorry for the shake again, I'm not having the XS20 here, so I don't have a stabilized sensor, but I think it is still fine. Like, yeah, there are some micro jitters and stuff, but from like some tests that I did before, it is not unwatchable. But definitely if you want to vlog with this lens or any other one, better get a Fujifilm XS20. The X-M5 is great because it's so small, but this is more for something on a tripod. Yeah, that's a problem. Filters tend to fall down. So let's have a quick look at the autofocus with this lens. So far from my experience that I had over the past few weeks with it are good. Like, I never had any focus issues that I would blame on the lens. Of course, now Fuji can sometimes fail a bit, but honestly I didn't have any major issues, and I would say that's also how it looks now. Let's do it a bit faster, right? Let's put my back down here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it tracks my face perfectly, and I think it was a little bit behind, but that should be fine, yeah? Awesome. And also regarding focus, the minimum focus distance is 23 centimeter only, which is actually not that much. It's great, so you can get really close to things. What I found important with this lens, because with wide-angle lenses it is harder to get many different shots. Like, you would have to change lenses to tighter ones usually and only use the 15mm for wide or long shots. But by being able to get in close, you can also capture some interesting angles. And focus breathing might also be important. Let's quickly check that. Yeah, it looks like there's definitely a bit of focus breathing, but I have to say I've seen worse, a lot worse, yeah. It's actually not bad, yeah, awesome. So there we are up the bird watching platform. Now, what I noticed with the X-M5 especially, because I'm shooting an f/2 and this lens, is that you cannot always shoot at f1.7 wide open, which usually you want. But for example, here right now, while I went up that tower, I had to oftentimes use f2.8 because it's just too bright here, because f/2 is at ISO 1250 on this camera, and then f1.7 and even 9 stops ND filter is not enough. It is still a bit too bright, so you might even want to stack filters that get you to like 10 or maybe even 11 stops in certain situations. So just because it has f1.7, don't expect that you always shoot that. And talking about that, let's also come to video and photo quality with this lens. And I can only say that all the shots that I took over the past few weeks with this lens look great. I didn't have anything to complain. And yeah, as mentioned, I am not really doing like technical reviews anymore for that, because I think it doesn't make any sense actually, because at first the most important thing when it comes to lenses and also cameras is if you actually like the final result. And second is that from all lenses that I've reviewed over the past few years, there hasn't been anywhere I felt like it wasn't sharp enough. Like they were all pretty sharp. And that made me think that when it comes to sharpness, it's really the question if it can resolve the highest megapixels of the camera that you have or not. And the cameras that I have all don't have 40 plus megapixels. Like the highest megapixel camera I have is the Sony A7C Mark II with 33 megapixels. So even like for Sony, I would need 61 megapixels to test that. And for here Fujifilm, I would need, what is it, 40 or 44 megapixels, what the X-H2 has. Also don't have this camera. So it doesn't really make sense if I test this lens for that, because it can clearly resolve the 26 megapixels that the X-M5 has. So that's how I feel about that now. And yeah, I mean, I show you all the shots here and you can definitely tell it looks great. So if you worry about sharpness or anything like that, don't worry with this lens, it looks good. And there's also the thing that when you have a technically perfect lens, then people complain that it doesn't have character, it is too clinical. And then you have a lens full of character, and then people complain about chromatic aberrations and other stuff going on in this lens. So it's like, man, just look at the footage, and if you like the footage, cool, get it. So this is really all I have to say for that. But yeah, you see it for yourself here on this lens. So that's why I also think it's better to, instead of like wasting my time at home doing tests with shots and something like that, I better just go out and get more shots with it and show them to you. So yeah, that's my findings. Great quality, like all of those air lenses that I've tested. Like it's generally this air line from Viltrox. They are all pretty sharp, but they lack all the like features when it comes to the body of those lenses. So overall, I think it's great what Viltrox does with those lenses, because they offer something good at a really affordable price, and they also prevent you from getting back pain. Birding is freaking hard. Like I thought I would see some birds on top of the trees everywhere and would easily spot them and could easily get some shots. But I was like looking around, couldn't see a single bird. What the hell? And I noticed that it's mostly smaller birds here that all fly into the trees, so of course I can't film them. Bird photographers have a hard job. Yeah. Therefore I saw a bunch of fish here, so came for birds, but ended up filming fish and a fisherman there. So I guess it's a fish viewpoint. Anyway, back to the lens and the setup here now. Think like overall the setup here with the selfie stick and the tripod base works pretty good. But not with this selfie stick perfectly, because I feel like that Insta360 3-meter selfie stick doesn't really fully lock in if I want to tighten it. So I had it quite a few times that it slid down. That of course shouldn't happen while you film yourself. So if you have a selfie stick that is anywhere between 1.5 and 2 meters long that you can recommend that locks in place a bit better, please leave it in the comments below. I think aside from that, I really like that setup, because at least when it's relatively wind still and stuff, as it mostly is when I film myself, it's actually pretty good. Like especially with the X-M5 now and this lens, it makes it so easy to film myself and carry all that setup around. So that's really something I want to look more into in the future. Anyway, back to the lens. I think I've said everything already. Like the shots are great, the lens is nice because it's so small and light. Of course, it's not a professional lens, no weather sealing, nothing, so be careful in the rain. But I really love the airline from Viltrox for APS-C cameras, especially because when you get into APS-C, that generally means that you want to have something cheaper and lighter, and Viltrox gives you that with this line. And because the apertures are quite low, you get that full frame look still. As you might be able to tell now, we're shooting at 1.7, and anywhere behind me you should still see a decent amount of blur, at least for 15mm. Of course, like generally when I film myself, I usually use 35mm on full frame cameras, so that would be about 23 or let's say 25mm on an APS-C camera. So that's what I would rather use, and that also gives a bit more blur. But yeah, I think if you want to have a great self-filming setup, then this is awesome, especially if you like use tripods all the time. But of course, if you want to shoot general travel, a lot of stuff out of your hand, then maybe better use those air lenses with the Fujifilm X-S20 or other Fujifilm cameras that do have IBIS included, because otherwise it's a bit tough to film right out of your hand, especially also because the setup is so light. Like generally, if you have heavier setups, then you also automatically shake a bit more. So yeah, that's my conclusion about this lens. It's definitely not for professionals, but I think for many general content creators, hobbyists, and everyone that wants to get into photography and videography, these are definitely lenses that you should look into. So I'm out trying to get some more shots here, even if it's not doesn't really seem to be successful. There are a bit bigger birds, a bit farther away. I just try to get there and get some more shots. So if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and also check out these 2 videos here for other Viltrox lenses. There you will learn more, and I see you there.